I like to think that, real readiness really means no one has to ask, what do we do? Have what you need for the first 72 hours, because within a major disaster, when resources are spread really thin, you may be the first responder. We're all one step away from a different life.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Accessibility Now, a podcast where we look at disability rights issues and accessibility issues in the state of Georgia and beyond. I'm here with Tiffany Yearwood, a director for emergency management, and she is going to share with us about her role and what she does.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again, Matt, for having me. I really appreciate the conversation that you're bringing to the table. My name is Tiffany Yearwood. I am the Emergency Management Director for Charlton County in Georgia. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's the lowest county in Georgia at the Georgia-Florida line, just one county over from the coast. The coastal county is Camden, and we're one county inland from Camden. So I'm the director for emergency management for Charlton County. For those who don't know what emergency management does, we kind of just really consider ourselves to be first responders for the first responders. We do a lot of the behind the scenes work for coordination and collaboration with various partners, stakeholders within the local community for our counties, but also for our extended areas. So we have a lot of collaboration and coordination with everyone within the community, all the way from guests and visitors within the community to community members, all the way up to our executive leadership and whatnot, and key partners that help us during emergencies and major disasters.
When it comes to helping people with disabilities in the midst of a disaster, before a disaster, after a disaster, what does it look like when a county is actually ready for that and not just on paper?
Yeah, so I like to think that, real readiness really means no one has to ask, what do we do? And the what do we do with this, and this? So when it comes down to somebody who has special needs in particular, the question shouldn't be a question of how do we solve this problem. So if we're really ready, then the systems and processes that we have in place account for truly the whole community, which includes our most vulnerable populations.
Great. Yeah, no, that's a great to know that that's kind of the goal that you approach this with. So kind of shifting to the more practical elements of this, what are one or two things that you wish every household would do before a storm is even on the forecast? Because we all were kind of scrambling, it felt like, earlier this year, and particularly people with disabilities. What would you like them to know before the next one?
I think we put out a lot of messaging, a lot of outreach with Be Prepared and preparedness kits. And we try to give checklists of here are the things that you want to have ready to go. And those are all great lists, but they're not tailored to the individual. So my suggestion is doing an exercise for yourself. In emergency management, we don't just help make plans and build plans and get prepared. We exercise our plans to identify gaps and try to fill in those gaps so we can be prepared for a true emergency. And when true emergencies happen, we do the same thing. What could I have done differently here? What could we as a collective done differently that could have made this a stronger response or a better situation, and apply it to the update in the next plan? And I think that's a good practice to do as a person. If you've been through an experience before, take the lessons learned from those experiences for what did I need that I didn't have? What was it that I didn't think of? And write those down and make your own committed list to help make it easy. Because when you're in the middle of a disaster, and I'll use the wildfires as an example right now, The wildfire situation is a different situation from a hurricane situation. Hurricane, we're tracking the trajectory, we're kind of seeing the pathway, and we may have some surprises, but we kind of know just about where it's going to go, and we have time to prepare. But in a wildfire situation, you don't have time to say, what do I need before I run out of my house, before it catches fire? And there are a lot of people who are seeing that right now. And if we try to create a plan for ourselves in advance, that even if it's a quick checklist on your phone, something that you keep near the door, I encourage a go bag, stuff that is readily positioned in a place that if this is super important to you, you know how to grab it and go. But trying to remember it in the middle of panic and chaos is not quite as easy. So if you have something to look at, say, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, then you can feel better prepared as you leave that space, knowing that you have what you need, at least for the moment, to get you by until you can get to more supplies.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. So it's kind of like what I hear you saying is make a checklist for in contingency plan if X disaster happens, and then have different ones customized to each particular disaster. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I think if you have a general checklist for it's more of what do I need if I have to leave immediately and possibly not be able to come back
Okay.
to the place, you know? So yeah, a lot of times people panic and they end up leaving their pets, they end up leaving their medications. We have the plans on the other side to help you with continuity of those things. So if you're worried about not being able to manage your pet because you don't know where you're going, take your pet with you, reach out to your emergency management and follow the official channels, and then get to the other place. It's the same thing with any medical supplies and special equipment. If you can reasonably get it and take it with you, then get it and take it with you. And then on the other end, we have the support from public health and Red Cross and other the state VOAD, all of these other partners that we have who can step in and get you reconnected with the things that you need. But as long as you have what you need, I'd say for the first 72 hours is what we always recommend. Have what you need for the first 72 hours, because within a major disaster, when resources are spread really thin, you may be the first responder. And that's why we have a lot of places, we have those CERT teams, the community emergency response teams, that people can get in on and learn a little bit more for how to help yourself in a disaster and how to help your neighbor. It's kind of that concept when you're on a plane, you put on your oxygen mask first, and then you help the person next to you. So we always try to push out the training for community members to really be able to support themselves at that front end, and you can do that for yourself too. You may not be able to go out and help others immediately, but you can help yourself first, and that is a part of the puzzle piece. You're important too.
Absolutely. Yes, that's great. And do you think we could post with the show notes like a link to a checklist or like a kind of a general list of things that you should have in mind for when a disaster hits?
Yeah, absolutely. Ready.gov is a good source for information. That is a good website that helps get you prepared for and gets you really thinking for what kind of things should I be thinking about to be prepared for disasters. There's all kinds of information floating around on the internet. I'll get you connected with a couple of links that will be strong links for you to list as good resources as well.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that'd be a helpful starting place, and then people can
Yeah.
kind of customize it for their particular situation.
Yeah. Think about what you need specifically. Like again, the lists are basics: supplies, changes of clothes, medications, if you have glasses, important documents, things that you couldn't replace that you want to take with you that you can reasonably grab, those kind of things. Very general. But if we have special circumstances where maybe we've also got a equipment for a motorized chair, a backup battery for oxygen concentrator, things like that, you want to make sure that you have those things included on your personal list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So another resource that I want people to be aware of that a lot of people might not be is that a lot of counties in Georgia have a voluntary registry
Hmm.
where people with disabilities can sign up to get extra help in an emergency. Can you
Right.
explain how those work, what they provide, and what you tell someone thinking about signing up?
Yeah, I know registries can be a hard balance for people. Registries have a feel to them of being on this list, and I think it takes away the human aspect of it to some degree. But if you're really tied in to the community through your emergency management specifically, the registries are the tools that help us from the public health and the emergency management sides to be able to assist in a pinch. It's one of those things that if you're going to need the help, reach out to us so we know in advance and can have an account for this is somebody who we're going to need to pay close attention to in order to make sure they're supported for whatever the circumstance is. If it's an evacuation circumstance and we have somebody who's in a motorized wheelchair and they need assistance with collecting their belongings and being able to physically get into a vehicle to load up their chair and their equipment, those are things that we need to know. And if it's people who are sensitive as far as their lungs and they're on oxygen and their considerations for making sure that there is oxygen supply for them, these are all things that if we know it in advance we can plan for it. Registries strengthen our awareness and our ability to prepare. They don't replace personal preparedness or support networks. That's why we have all of these partners connected with the Centers for Independent Living and the different connections with public health to try and stay connected to have that awareness for all of the people that we have.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So
Yeah.
it just, the more you guys know, the more you can be of help when the moment
Yes.
comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these aren't these registries where you sign up for something and then your information is being
Right.
sold and somebody's now you're being spammed. Um,
Right.
well, we're not wanting to use your information unless we have to.
Right.
It's having it available so we can move with a plan quickly and efficiently in order to help support what needs you might have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shifting again to a more practical thing, when a shelter opens during a disaster,
Yeah.
people with disabilities should be, welcomed and available to, or they should be accessible, not sent, and people with disabilities shouldn't be sent somewhere else. In your experience, is this something that shelters can reliably accommodate people with disabilities, wheelchair accessible, etc.?
So absolutely, the expectation and the legal standard itself is inclusive sheltering. There are some jurisdictions that will work to separate some of the needs, not because of anybody's disabilities, so to speak. We have different circumstances within what is available for sheltering. We work to pre-identify shelters. We like to work in alignment with places like Red Cross and public health to get them as verified location areas for sheltering and centers for just warming and cooling and charging devices and oxygen concentrators and things like that. Sometimes it's not a matter of there's a division because of some special, it's not to exclude anybody from a space, but to have a space that's committed to take on the power needs, the healthcare needs, the special needs with people who can help the people who need the help. So sometimes the space is separated just for the layer of support, not because there's a division between disabled versus not disabled. It's based on the space available and what the space has the capacity for, because everybody's welcome to the space.
Absolutely. Okay, good. That's good to know. And another thing that I'm sure you all are dealing with on some level is, there's been a lot of changes at FEMA, a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
More responsibility is falling on state and local emergency managers. Where do you think Georgia stands right now in the midst of all those changes in terms of being ready for people with disabilities?
So, we've been having these conversations at the local level in relation to the what ifs. That's what we do, right? The what ifs. And what if FEMA were to just completely go away? What if we didn't have support, in these different layers? FEMA right now is one of those unknowns. It's hard to really speak to it because they're going through an evolution of change, and those changes haven't all been executed with in a concrete manner that shuffles down to us. So we're kind of in this hurry up and wait mode to learn a little bit more. But as we're waiting, we're not just standing by doing nothing. So at the local level, you have a lot of us advocating to our local leadership, to our state leadership, and beyond for what the needs of emergency management are. So just like communities rally when there's a disaster, we rally when there's a time period for advocacy for what emergency management really needs support for. So what I would say in relation to the advocacy, that we do have strength at our state level. Georgia Emergency Management Agency and Homeland Security, they're the oversight here, and they're working really hard to make sure that at the local level we have the things that we need. It's just always going to be a challenge when we're moving from a backward space.
Absolutely. Yeah. As we wrap things up here, if you want people listening that have disabilities or don't, because we all know people that have disabilities, and if we live long enough, if we're lucky to, we'll have disabilities too. So everybody, this applies to everybody. But for people that are listening, what are a few takeaways?
I think that one of the things that really pulls at my heartstrings, and really at the end of the day, I think that's what is the most impactful connection for people, for helping advocate for something or someone that it's not directly them or directly their problem, right? You know, standing idly by, knowing that other people need help is one of those things that I don't think people do on purpose. They just don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to help. I think that what we have to do is we all have to make sure that we're coming together and protecting each other, because we're all who we have. Again, when a major incident happens, the first responder is the people there. And so in relation to the conversation for disability advocacy and vulnerable populations, we have to make the connection that it could be us. It very likely will be us or someone we know who we encounter who has a exceptional experience that will require them to have special assistance at some point in their life or another. I referenced before in a previous conversation, how back in 2013 I was involved in a ambulance wreck. I was a paramedic over in Savannah, and my ambulance flipped completely, landed on the passenger side. I came partway out the back window. Ultimately, I'm walking, talking, and I'm okay. But at that first month mark, it was hard for me to sit upright without being in intense pain. The the what ifs flooded into my brain. What if something happened to me? What if, what about my kid? What about my family? What about my friends? What about the information that everybody would be struggling to find? Those kind of things. I think it's really important for us to make the emotional connection that what if is way closer to us than we think. We're all one step away from a different life. And it doesn't have to be something as drastic as a rollover collision with partial ejection in an intersection. One step away from a completely different life ourselves. And we have people around us who are already in that position who need us to step up to the plate while we can to support them, because that can and will be us or someone we know. And that's the true emotional connection, is not the selfish part of, oh, it can be me. It's that it can be more personal to me. It can be somebody I love. And, I'd like to think that whether or not we know each other, if I'm walking by and somebody needs help, I we don't have to know each other. You need help, I want to help you. And that's, people rally. We want to help. People just need to know how to help. And how you help is you advocate. You make sure that you're paying attention to the groups, following their Facebook pages, seeing what the needs are, so you can broaden your perspective and have a better understanding of how someone else has to live for the exceptions they have to make for the needs that they have, because that can and will be you or your family member.
Great words to end on. It makes me think of Mr. Rogers, that when something bad happens, look for the helpers.
Look for the helpers.
Yeah. And reminds us that humanity does have a sense of goodness implanted in us, even if we can get a little nasty with how we treat each other sometimes. But thank you so much, Tiffany.
Yes, no, thank you for having me. Anytime. Thank you so much.